Hey everybody, I'm back with another video. This time I'm doing a recap of the Frontline Gaming Rocky Mountain Open 2024 that I attended. Was my first ever 40K tournament, and I had an absolute blast. Everyone that I played against was super helpful and super patient, and helped a noob like me learned some new things, and it was just a great experience all around. Another thing that was really awesome was every army that I played against, with the exception of Necrons, I had never really played much before, and I'll get into that as I kind of go through all the lists and kind of talk about how it went. But as I mentioned, RMO 2024 was it's held on March 16th here in Colorado. And it was held at the Adams County Fairgrounds. About 200 players showed up, were present at the event. All in all, I just thought it was awesome all around. So I've already created a video that goes over in more detail the list that I took. But just really quickly to kind of set the context here, I knew this was going to be my first tournament. I knew I was going to suck and probably lose just about every game. So the goal here is I just took models that I really liked. So I'll go through that list very quickly to kind of show you what I'm talking about. No meta chasing at all. I'm not loaded with 18 chickens or 1,000 or 100 Scutari to kind of chase the Scutari Hunter cohort seems to be like our best attachment at the moment, but you really need a lot of chickens and Scutari, it seems, to make that one work well. And I just didn't want to mess with all that stuff. I just wanted to run the army and the units I liked. And again, not looking to win, just looking to learn and meet a bunch of new people and kind of get the first tournament under my belt. So the list I took was Cohort Cybernetica. Only had three characters. The Engine Seer had the Necromechanic enhancement, and the rest of my list is pretty vehicle heavy. So I've got one unit of Rangers that I mainly sat in the backfield to sit on my home objective and to move them up if I needed reinforcements because they have that sticky obsec ability. And then I had a unit of Skitarii Vanguard that were in a Dune Rider transport with Kyria Draxus. I had some Skystalkers that I kept in reserves for deep strike, onto objectives and to get into corners and that sort of thing. I had two units of Cerberus Raiders that I used to kind of scout ahead and move block and maybe do a little chip damage. Same thing with these two Iron Strider Ballistari. Again, I'm taking the units that I have, the models that I have. I only have four Iron Striders built at the moment. I think I have two more in boxes, one or two more in boxes, and I refuse to buy any more until, because paying $60 for a 50-point model just seems insane. So I'm not going to buy any more of them. But Castellan Robots, I had a unit of four of them, probably my favorite unit in the whole game. And I equipped them with Twin Castellan Fists and Heavy Phosphor Blaster. I like the extra range on the Phosphor Blaster and the damage. It's damage 2. Other people like the Combustor, the Flamer, and I totally get why, but this is kind of what I had, and I kind of wanted to try this out. The Honored Dune Crawler, I took two of those, love the model, probably my second favorite model in the faction, one with a neutron laser for anti-tank, and one with an eradication beamer, the Casino Cannon for up-close shooting. And I wanted to try two disintegrators. One had the Ferromite Cannon for long range kind of anti-tank against vehicles and monsters. It gets that +1 to hit against them. And then I took one disintegrator with the Belleros energy cannon for indirect. And then kind of closing it out, I had two Sidonian Dragoons to move block and do some melee in one unit, and the Dune Rider, of course, with Draxus. And as I mentioned, Draxus led a unit of Vanguard in the Dune Rider. And finally, I've got a Vindicare Assassin that I took, and I promptly ignored about half the game. And I'll get into this in kind of the third video I do, which is kind of lessons learned from my first tournament. But I ended up forgetting a lot and skipping over a lot of things just because, first tournament and you're nervous and you can't remember anything. So I'm sure a lot of other folks who have done a first tournament can agree with that. So with my list reviewed, why don't we go into the first person I played against? So this first individual I played against was super helpful, super friendly, and he really was just a very kind person who kind of walked me through his army. And also, as we played, occasionally I would ask him for tips or advice, and he would readily give them. And so, just a great player and a great person all around. And he took Deathguard, which I had never played against before. He had Mortarion. Of course, Deathguard is still playing off their index, so using the Plague Company detachment, I guess. He did have Mortarion, a lot of Plague Marines, Blightlord Terminators, Death Shroud Terminators, a Fetid Bloat Drone, the Plague Burst Callers for indirect, and a bunch of Poxwalkers. And I took a couple pictures of both our armies as they're kind of clashing here. So here you can see my Scorpius Disintegrator, with which has the anti-vehicle and anti-monster laser cannon, is engaged by this Fetid Bloat Drone. I've already been knocked down to 4 wounds remaining on this guy, and you can see my Engine Seer kind of cowering in the corner over here. Cowering in the corner. And this die up here represents the 5-up Feel No Pain that the Engine Seer gave that Disintegrator. But overall, I lost this game as along with all the other games I played at this tournament, but it was a great experience to kind of play against Deathguard for the first time. And here's a picture of his backfield with Mortarion and the Plague Burst Crawler indirect weapon, and I believe those are some Deathguard Terminators ready to march up and kill my dudes. But what I found was really interesting was, playing against Deathguard for the first time. This Nurgle's Gift aura really impacts, if you're getting attacked by Deathguard in melee or range, they've got this contagion range for their Nurgle's Gift aura that basically chips away at your toughness, makes their weapons more effective, which definitely was the case when shooting into my guys. And I can't remember what buff here he got from Spread the Sickness, but regardless, he just kind of inexorably advanced up the board and killed all my guys in the process. But very enjoyable game, great player, and that leads me to the next faction I played against, which was a Votann army. I've always liked the Votann. I'm actually collecting Votann along with Orks as my second and third armies. Can't quite decide yet which one I want to try next after AdMech, but I probably have a year's worth of painting left for AdMech, so it's going to be a while. But like the Deathguard, this player, they're still in an index attachment, no codex, and as everybody knows, the Votann don't have a ton of units yet left, so their model and unit range is fairly small, but they seriously pack a punch. Short to medium range, I found his shooting just to be overwhelming, and he kind of quickly deleted most of my army that was kind of out and about, and or at least able to be shot by him. So kind of quickly go over the detachment rule. The Eye of the Ancestors basically lets them put judgment tokens on, I believe, up to 4 models in a 2,000 point army. And if they have 1 judgment token, every unit in their army gets +1 to hit. And if they have 2, then they also get +1 to hit and +1 to wound, which turns out to be really potent. And their detachment rule, basically they get a ton of CP once they destroy, I guess it's the grudged units. I don't know. I can't remember if it was just the first one or if it's an ongoing thing. I think it might just be the first one. But, he was able to destroy one of those grudged units in the first turn, in his first turn of shooting. And he really, I really got an appreciation for just how well the the Votann can shoot. And here's love the screenshot. It shows my Scorpius Disintegrator and one of my onagers kind of in an alleyway formed by the terrain here. And you can see one of the Votann transports on a big chunk of his infantry up ahead. And he just proceeded to mow me down kind of turn after turn. Also a super friendly guy, very fun to play against, and very patient, and answered a lot of my dumb questions. So really enjoyed playing him. Here's a picture of his Hernkin Pioneers, probably one of the best looking armies I played against. Just gorgeous paint job, and even more impressive is the gentleman told me that he started collecting and painting this army just a couple months ago. So I really felt like a slacker in my barely battle-ready army that I brought to this event. So, and I thought I had another picture of his full army. But all in all, gorgeous army, amazing player. Lost this one, but it was great to finally face off against Votann on the battlefield. And that brings me to my third opponent, who was an Orks player, and like all the other factions I played on day one, they were all index factions, so no codexes for any of them yet. And I had never played, as I mentioned, I've never played against Orks before. I heard about their Wa turn, where they call a Wa, how every unit in their entire army gets to advance and charge. They also get +1 strength, +1 to both strength and attacks from melee weapons, and every single army gets a 5-up invulnerable save. And, you know, I knew the Orks were tougher during the WoW, but I did not realize just how tough they were. So I actually kind of foolishly advanced, thinking my Castellan robots would be tough. I think I got first turn against this player and advanced halfway up the board. I think he even asked me once, do you really want to do that? And I found out why I should have not done that. You know, you had a list with a Beast Boss, Captain Badrock, Mosrog Scragbad, a bunch of war bosses, lots of boys, lots of trucks. And what I quickly found is, you know, everyone thinks that kind of the perception, and maybe there's, you know, mostly reality to this, but Orc shooting is generally not that good. There might be a ton of it, but they don't hit, you know, they hit on 5s or 6s, and they generally don't do very well. But he had attached a character to the flash gits that made them extra effective in shooting, and so I was a bit surprised by that. But what really impressed me were his Mega Knobs during the WoW turn, because during that, and I've got some pictures here that show me getting slaughtered. Here you can see these aren't the Mega Knobs, they're just regular Orc boys, I believe, or maybe the flash gits that are surrounding my kind of single Ion Strider here. Believe me, this picture had a limited shelf life, because this unit died pretty quickly after getting mobbed like this. But the real sad thing was Castellan robots, which are generally very, you know, pretty tanky. They've got a 2-up regular save and I believe a 4 or 5-up invulnerable save. Toughness 9. You know, they're generally a pretty tough unit. 7 wounds. They generally can take a fair amount of punishment before they get removed from the table. But in this case, on the WoW turn, all of these Mega Knobs had strength 13 melee attacks, and he just totally butchered all my robots. So they were essentially gone in one turn. So anyway, after his WoW turn, I essentially had about half my army left, and he could proceed to just kind of mop up the rest. So all in all, you know, another fantastic player, a true gentleman, really friendly to play against, gave me lots of tips, and that kind of wrapped up day one. So being a glutton for punishment, I came back on day 2, because I really did enjoy the first day, you know, meeting folks and just learning to play all these different armies. So my first game in the next day of the tournament was against Tyranids, another index, and actually it was not an index army. This one has, the Tyranids, as everyone knows, has a codex already. Um, so I don't have a PDF to kind of show their army rule and stuff here, but it's safe to say that his approach was, he took the invasion fleet detachment, had a lot of really tough monsters and a lot of termagants, and on top of that, his army was really beautifully painted, kind of in this 3 to 4 color scheme that I'll show you in just a sec. But as you can see here in this other datasheets list, lots of monsters. An Exocrine, 2 of them, 2 Maliceptors. He had Nuragons defending his. I can't remember the name of the character it was defending. Screamer Killer, 2 Tyrannifexes, so big monster list with a ton of termagants. And let's see if I can bring up some pictures there. Here's the Votann players' full army that I mentioned earlier. Just a gorgeous army. So apologies for not showing this earlier. But he really did an amazing job with his army. And speaking of beautiful armies, here's the Tyranid player's army. He had this awesome kind of black and silver and kind of teal color for his whole army. And also very helpfully, he had these little movement trays that you can barely see here under the termagants. They used to move his units around, which I thought was really helpful. So can't remember what Tyranid unit this was, but it was scary and probably killed a bunch of my dudes. And speaking of killing things, my Castellans actually managed to kill his Norn emissary in melee. But towards the end of the game, I think his Screamer Killer, his Norn emissary was actually on this objective first, and I was able to use my Castellans to kill that, and then was hoping to kill off the Screamer Killer, but I think we just ran out of time before I could get to that. Here's another shot of his army. And those awesome movement trays that I mentioned. Here's a literal flood of termagants coming kind of flooding around this Onager Dunecrawler I've got. And again, astute AdMech players will probably notice that I installed the gun upside down with the excuse me, with the heavy stubber on top. And this is what you get for building your models at 1 a.m. the day of a tournament. But and you can see in the background, I've got an Iron Strider getting flooded by termagants too. So all in all, it was a great experience with termagants and against Tyranids. One thing that I learned also playing termagants and orcs is, you really do need, when you're going to a tournament, if you really want to have a more competitive chance, again, my list wasn't competitive by any means. I just kind of took what I had and took what I enjoyed to play. But you really need a mix of like anti-tank and anti-infantry to really help you with mobs like this. Because I think I struggled a bit because I didn't have much in the way of really serious anti-infantry. I had the Belaros cannon, I had Kyriadraxis in the transport with the Vanguard. But again, positioning is really important, and I didn't have those units where I needed them at the right time. So anyway, it was pretty eye-opening to see what Tyranids can do. And also, I know a lot of people, if you go to Reddit and other places, a lot of people will say that a lot of game mechanics that rely on leadership checks aren't as effective. But the Shadow of the Warp, he dropped on me, I think it was the 3rd or 4th turn. Literally 75% of my army failed their leadership test, just bad rolls. So there were 2 or 3 objectives that I just could not control because my units were battle shocked. So it can have an impact, and I definitely learned that at this tournament. So that was awesome game again. Fantastic player, really super helpful. Gave me a lot of advice. Which leads me to the second game on my second day, which was against Necrons. My youngest son plays Necrons, and a good acquaintance that I play in kind of a local 40k group plays Necrons a lot, so I'm familiar with Necrons, but I have never played against four Catans before, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If you're a Necron player, please correct me. But this particular player had four Catans in his list, and he had two Transcendent Catans or Satans, and two, or I guess one Shard of the Nightbringer and one Shard of the Void Dragon, and a ton of Scarab Swarms, a bunch of Wraiths, and a bunch of flayed ones as well. Again, super nice player, very helpful. This is probably where my bad dice streak helped. Again, I'm a noob player, and at the moment not a very good 40k player. So on top of that, in this game, I was just rolling. I was rolling terribly, and he had a hot streak where he was rolling fives and sixes for most of the game. And so I really took a shellacking here. I think he scored 100 points against me in this. And another thing that he really took advantage of is I had a techno-archaeologist attached to my Rangers to screen my backfield with that 12-inch no deep strike, and I was kind of eyeballing it when I put him down. I didn't measure it, and it was just enough room for two of these Satans to basically drop in my backfield and wreak havoc. So he handily won this game. Great player, very friendly, great skill set. Learned a lot from him. And, this kind of brought me to 0-6. But I did want to show a couple of quick pictures from our battle here. You can see, Necron players can forgive me. I don't know exactly which Catan this is, but he's about to wreak havoc on my Castellans. And another unit of his that I was really surprised at how much damage it did were these flayers. I had a unit of three Cerberus Raiders that these flayers charged into and literally just chopped up to bits, and then they proceeded to handily kind of dismantle this Iron Strider too. So, again, even though I've played other Necron players, I'd never faced off against four Catan and a whole bunch of flayers like this before. So, lesson learned on my part, and I will pay much more attention to how deadly these guys can be in the future. But, again, fantastic player. Great to play against him. And that leads me to the last game of the day, which was against another Orks player. The formatting of his list here in Best Coast Pairings, it looks a little messed up, but overall it was a fantastic army to play against. And going into this, I should have known that the fates would be on the Orc side, because there were probably a lot of things that aligned on this day to really kind of make it an Orcs victory. Was almost inevitable. Number one, as you can see on this terrain map, most of the other than the stone texture here, there's all this green coloring that was in the tournament map that we used. So, here we have the terrain is green. You can see the objective markers here. They were all green. And I'll show you some other pictures here, too, of the terrain. But the terrain that we used, it had green accents. And on top of that, someone told me after this game that reminded me that March 17th was St. Patrick's Day. So there was a quadruple thread of green happening today that I just, obviously, the planets had aligned for the Orcs, and it was going to be a green wave the entire day. And this player absolutely just rolled right over me. Again, an amazing player, super friendly. I really loved, I don't know if this is a truck or a battle wagon exactly, but he painted all of his vehicles in a kind of rusty Mad Max look, which I thought was really cool. And like the other game I had with Orcs, having fought against Orcs and experienced the Votann in the previous day, I tried to stay back in the side, the very back of my deployment zone, and try to shoot him as he came in. Unfortunately, this particular map, and I can't remember exactly the name of the map. It's in Best Coast Pairings, I believe. But we were really close to each other. The way the map was designed, we were kind of just facing off against each other across not a whole lot of distance, and he was able to close that really quickly. My kind of poor dice rolls didn't help here. Again, I don't know what it was, but for most of this day, my dice rolls were not the greatest. So, but regardless, he was much better player than I was. Also very patient, also very helpful, and a true gentleman all around. So all in all, it was 6 games of 40K in 2 days. After the first 3, you're back sore and even stooping over this table pretty much the entire day. And I was thinking, can I manage to stick it out and do this? But I kind of felt like, the experience I wanted to get was to play as many factions as I could. Talk to a lot of players who are all better than me, and I gotta say, anyone who's considering doing a tournament but is nervous because they don't want to get yelled at or they want people to get upset, I had such an awesome experience. Everyone was wonderful, and they all were super friendly and very helpful and very patient. And so I would encourage anyone who's on the fence or just wants to try it out to just take the plunge and go ahead and do it. And kind of a shout out to the Frontline gaming team and the organizers of the event, because one of the things that I was really surprised by, and I had a friend who plays Imperial Guard who went to the event and said if I lose all of my games and stay till the end, they might have an award. And lo and behold, they did have an Indomitable Award that if you basically stick it out for all of your games and you lose all of them, they give you a special award for that, for just kind of sticking it out and making sure that other players have folks to play against. And so thanks to everyone for recognizing my mediocrity in 40K. But great experience and a nice gesture. And overall, I highly recommend the tournament. Had a great time. Everyone I played against was awesome. And like I said, if you're even considering doing a 40K tournament, I would, as a new player, I would take the plunge and try it. And with that said, that is it for my recap. I will have another video in this series where basically it'll be a video that talks about things I learned from the tournament and things I would recommend for other new players. I know there's a lot of other tournament advice out there on YouTube and on Reddit, but I feel like sometimes a lot of that advice is written by experts, or most of it is written by people who have played 40K a considerable amount of time. And there's some things that I noticed that as a complete noob to tournaments, things that I found to be extremely helpful, things that I found that I wish I had done, and I thought maybe it might be useful to show or to reveal my perspective on kind of what worked and what didn't, and what I think what I need to do for my next tournament. So with that, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.